Okay, our next speaker, I got a little story about this guy. I hate to do it, but so this gentleman's from Honeywell, and back in the early 2000s, he ran the Honeywell channel as like the channel marketing leader. And he and I put together a customer event here in Detroit. We decided to go to a baseball game, a Detroit Tiger game. We rented a suite together, Cochran and Honeywell, invited our customers, the Honeywell team came in. Well, that was Justin Verlander's 2007 no-hitter. It was the first no-hitter at Comerica Park, and it was just an amazing moment. Okay, but that's not the story. 3 years later, Dave and I get together again. We decide, hey, let's do another Tiger game. We had such a great event. And I don't know how many Tiger fans there are in the audience, but if you're a Tiger fan, I'm sure you remember in 2010, Galarraga's no-no, where he had a perfect game. He was pitching, and there was a ground ball to the infield, and everything was clean, and the ump missed the call. He called him safe. And the replay showed him out. I forget the ump's name, Dave knows, but anyway, so funny enough, so the two most biggest moments in Tiger baseball in 10 years, and this man was standing next to me 3 years later. 2 for 2, my best baseball story of the group. So I want to introduce our starting pitcher today with all the right moves, Diamond Dave Molin. Thanks, Dave.
Yes, everything Scott just shared with you is true. The umpire's name was Jim Joyce. Felt so bad after he saw the replay of the game. He came in the next day and he was crying because he knew that he took that no-hitter away from that Andres Galarraga. GM felt so bad for the pitcher. The next day they rolled the Corvette out to home plate to give him a Corvette as well. So it wasn't so bad for Galarraga, I guess, in the end. But thank you for Scott, the introduction. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Dave Molin. I thought I'd share with you a little bit about what's happening at Honeywell. Obviously, the company is going through lots of changes. I'm actually a returning employee to Honeywell. I was here from 2003 to 2013. That's when I met Scott and his team here. Had just a terrific time, but I left for 10 years. My career arc is very unusual. I've been out of my undergrad now for 32 years. I've only worked for 2 companies, Honeywell and Trane Technologies. I've worked for them both twice now. Super unusual. Maybe I'll write a book about it someday. But at any rate, happy to be back at Honeywell. I lead the building management systems business for Honeywell globally. So that means obviously the Honeywell brand, the Allerton brand, the Trend brand, the Tritium business, our Incom business, our Sire Burgess business in Europe. We have a couple other European businesses, EP and Exor and PIHA, and I'm responsible for all those products and all the strategy in all corners of the world. But I really learned about the distribution business from people like Scott, and so when I got the chance to come back and take this responsibility, it was an easy yes for me. A couple things I want to share today with you is I just want to give you some observations and findings since returning to Honeywell, and then I'm only going to talk about kind of 2 roadmap items for which I felt like you might be interested in, and obviously our team is here as well on the show floor to answer whatever questions you might have. I'll start with some observations and findings, then I'm going to talk about our Connected Forge strategy. I think every speaker up here has talked about artificial intelligence, they've talked about the importance of cloud, and you're going to hear that again this afternoon for sure. And then I'm going to specifically double click into this is a very, very early, kind of almost a sneak peek at what the Tritium strategy is around a native Niagara solution going forward. In the baseball theme, baseball has been a very important part of my whole life. That's why whenever I called Scott, it was always in the summer, because who wants to come to Detroit in January? But also, my family has been big in baseball. My son played Division I baseball all the way through college. And so my wife and I were talking last night, actually, and we were trying to total up, estimate the number of games that we were at between my 2 boys. And I think we got close to like 1,800 games between the two of them. But I love baseball, and so this is one of the all-time iconic scenes of baseball from the 1954 World Series. Willie Mays making this unbelievable catch in the first game of the World Series. But he's a really interesting guy, and you know, I really admire the quote on the left that says, "It isn't hard to be good from time to time in sports. What's hard is being good every day." And that quote also should resonate with us as business leaders, that, you know, it's the teams that put the good numbers on the scoreboard year after year after year. That's the hallmark of a great business instead of just a good business. And then the quote on the right is relevant for us as business leaders. Baseball is a game, yes, but it's also a business. And maybe even more so today than when Willie was playing in the 50s and 60s. Let me give you some observations about what I see since coming back. Obviously, consolidation has dramatically changed the landscape, both at the distribution level and at the system integrator level, and that's going to continue without question in my mind. I hear inquiries from private equity every day about, hey, do you have any targets for us that fit this kind of profile? That's going to not change for some time. Vertical markets are key. Right? So to the extent that you can align yourself with the markets that are faster growing, you're going to ultimately have better success. And so one of the things that we've done at Honeywell is kind of really focused on 3 key verticals. Data centers, like the whole world is super interested in data centers, but also the hospitality sector is growing at a very higher than GDP kind of clip around the world. And then healthcare. Healthcare is a mission critical organization. They can't afford downtime. And so those are the 3 verticals that we've chosen to really focus on, and we have dedicated demand generation resources trying to influence those kind of end users in favor of Honeywell. The next one is important to me because there's some people I've seen, even in our company, have felt like, well, we're Honeywell, right? And so, like, I'm entitled to your business. And that is so inconsistent with kind of my own personal philosophy. And so loyalty is earned in this business, and I'll get to some comments about that in a little bit here as well. It's not just automatically given. I think everybody on the stage this morning has talked about AI. Everybody is saying it's already here. I think about 10 or 20% of those people are right. And the good news is that you know, the data center build out is happening right now. I don't know if anybody has ever, maybe raise your hand if you've ever generated an image using a graphic image generator in artificial intelligence. Anybody has? A few people have. So every time you generate an image, either on Llama or Gemini or ChatGPT, you're using enough energy to fill your iPhone twice for one image. That's a shocking statistic when you think about what does the energy profile of the world happen to look like. There's people saying that, projections saying that 10% of the world's energy is going to be filtered to data centers by the year 2030. It's an extraordinary time in our kind of human evolution that's happening right now. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about connected buildings, and so we'll get to that trend. And then, you know, I guess fundamentally, commercial construction, though, is still an eyeball-to-eyeball industry. That's the way I call it. And, you know, there are some specific questions that are relevant to us in this case, like, can I trust you? When there's a transaction happening, the first thing that you have to overcome is, you know, do I trust the person that's telling me something? Do you care about me and my outcomes? And are you committed to excellence? Those 3 kind of key questions have been important in my life and are the way that I hope our company performs, and I know that our industry performs. But the idea that, you know, control systems are going to become a complete e-commerce transaction is not going to happen, at least for the foreseeable future. I want to talk about connected buildings. Now, Honeywell's had a few false starts, I would characterize, in the connected building space, and in specific around our Forge offering. I want to start with a quick video here to give you an update.
We've all been there. We depend on connectivity to know what's happening, to see the bigger picture, to coordinate the incredible. So why do buildings still depend on disconnected applications on site that make your building challenging to monitor and manage? Connecting buildings to the cloud used to be complicated. Now it's simple. Because connectivity is increasingly becoming convenient across building technologies. From sensors and devices to software and platforms, now your building can connect to cloud applications in minutes and hours without stressing your IT department. Which means your building can connect people to insights that protect uptime and help reduce energy use. To automation that makes operations easier to learn and maintain. To the outcomes that matter for your organization. In short, now your building can help you know what's happening, see the bigger picture, and coordinate the incredible. So whether you manage one building or 1,000, can you afford not to connect?
So the first thing that we did when we, I would say, got serious about being a connected buildings provider is we went out and talked to building owners to understand exactly what their pain points were. We talked to customers around the world. Obviously, Honeywell has a global footprint, but interestingly, the kind of common needs in all corners of the world yielded a solution here that was consistent. And so the good news is that people have concerns about operational uptime. They have concerns around energy management and resiliency. They have issues around complying to an ever-changing regulatory environment. And ultimately, we try to manage risks. That's what our control systems do in our industry. So technology is changing in all corners of our lives, right? In the home and at work, and with commerce as well. And so everybody here in the room knows, what Microsoft Teams is or Zoom was. I remember when the pandemic started, there was not a lot of, at least infrastructure built in my company at the time around how do we do remote kind of activity, and very quickly that has changed the world, I think, for the better. That's an example of things like electronic records in healthcare. There's a company right outside of Madison, Wisconsin called Epic Systems. If you have a doctor or a healthcare system that uses the MyChart application, that's the genesis of electronic record systems today for the healthcare industry in North America. So it's happening right in front of our eyes here. And so we have started this journey, I will say, around our holistic approach to connected. It starts with frictionless connectivity, and frankly, this was the biggest problem that Honeywell had in our earlier instances of a connected building strategy. It simply took too long to get all the variables, the taxonomy right, whether somebody was using a standard nomenclature for ontology in the building. Then there's the technical kind of IT elements of how do I get it from here to there. And so there was just a tremendous amount of effort. And we actually benchmarked our own prior systems here. And on average for, think, a normal building with maybe 150 controllers and a few thousand data points, it took, regrettably, 77 hours to onboard that building, clear all the hurdles with IT, make the data pipe secure. 77 hours of effort to get a building connected. Big problem. You can imagine that we have the same exact shortage of skilled labor that you all have in your world, and so we had to ultimately address the connectivity problem, and we've done it with a couple ways. We've streamlined the tools, but more importantly, we've used AI in an ingestion mechanism. So when data starts streaming from a building to our cloud, the AI engine itself starts to interpret what an asset looks like and what the data is that's coming with it. And so we've taken that 77 hours. As of last week, the most recent building that I had data for that we ingested last week, same kind of size of building, was down to 4 hours. So we'll show up in the morning, by lunchtime, that building is fully connected to the cloud. And then, so that's one element of having connected buildings. Number two is, like, how do we help then both the system integrator, who's maybe the service provider in that building, but also the end user get value out of being connected. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of those things as we go forward here. So it starts with the left side of the page here, get connected. We have this thing called the partner portal for system integrators to help with onboarding, to allow you to manage your subscriptions of the software elements themselves, to an API management module where you can connect to other third-party kind of tools and solutions through an API. And then there are specific applications that we've built directly for system integrators to provide remote building management interventions without any additional tools needed at all. To allow them to manage a service portfolio so that in the morning you can prioritize solutions or prioritize your own labor force perhaps even for addressing the highest critical needs. Maintenance manager, insight builder, we'll talk about a couple of those things as we go forward here. Imagine an application that allowed you to look around your entire service base and identify all the obsolete controllers, all the firmware versions that need to get updated, and being able to take action on those things because of the data that comes from this connected environment. And then for the building owner themselves, they'll get applications like a carbon and energy management interface. Most public companies have made carbon commitments in their annual reports even, and they have to report on that to regulatory agencies in some parts of the country. And so giving them a tool to actually run quick reports that articulate the progress that they're making on their own carbon reduction journey is another thing that we've done. So as it relates to like the key value offerings, like customers care deeply about uptime, right? And having the confidence of uptime. We have lots of applications here. Here's an example of a tool called the Forward Opportunity Assessment that actually will use artificial intelligence to identify those assets that have the highest likelihood of failure in the next X amount of months. Customers are absolutely, building owners are absolutely willing to pay for such a thing because it helps them plan their capital instead of being responsive to an emergency failure. Another example is around compliance. Again, this is a need in some parts of the United States and in some parts of the world. Regulatory compliance is a much bigger challenge than in other places. But having a tool that allows you to have some insights as to potential failure modes that might be coming around the corner again that you might not be prepared for, and those that you have to report on to a regulatory agency. So those are things that an insight builder tool will be able to help with. Risk is obviously something that is important to end users directly, especially those end users that rely on uptime for the success of their own business. Data centers are an example, healthcare is an example, any kind of high precision manufacturing. Battery plants are another one. Lots of use cases for this kind of technology, but again, this application opportunity assessment is an example that allows you to, based upon data, start to prioritize opportunities for improvement across the way. This is all enabled through connecting to Forge today with the with the offerings that we have. Energy efficient use, I would also add to this one perhaps the time that energy is being used as the grid kind of comes to grip with this pending AI boom in data centers. The grid is going to have to become a little more flexible as well. So for energy use and energy consumption basis, having this kind of carbon and energy management tool allows building owners to make good, credible decisions about when and how they use energy that's available. So I just wanted to walk you through those key Forge elements, Forge application elements that are actually rolling out to our channel partners a week from tomorrow. We've been through lots of beta cycles with lots of customers around the world. Ironically, the Europeans have the highest standard. It's largely regulatory driven, but we spent a lot of time with them to address their needs, and so I feel a high degree of confidence that if we can address those unique needs, this is going to be a globally universal tool. So it's coming soon to a theater near you. Next thing I want to talk about is what are we doing with Tritium. A couple things I want to share with you today around a native Niagara cloud. First of all, think of it this way. This is taking the existing kind of cloud solution that we have with Niagara today and doubling down on it. Putting it on steroids, pick your kind of clever metaphor, however you'd like to think about it. But there's value for channel partners, for sure. There's value for end customers, for sure. Imagine a completely cloud-driven supervisor that is always current with the latest software, so you always get the latest and greatest features automatically because it's cloud-driven. Imagine as bug fixes. I know as frustrating as it is to all of us, sometimes software has bugs, and so deploying those software fixes very quickly before maybe even the customer even knows that there's That's what the cloud-enabled solution can do. Imagine a use case of cyber security, cyber vulnerabilities, and making sure that your cloud installation, Honeywell, of course, is, I will say, world-class in terms of its cyber capabilities, cybersecurity capabilities. We are a very, very large U.S. government defense contractor, and so to the extent that we could ever win business with the Department of Defense for cockpit avionics and the latest fighter jets, we have to be able to demonstrate that the company itself and its own software development strategies is completely compliant with the most recent and most rigorous software standards around cybersecurity. So value propositions all across the board for Niagara in the cloud. So I have a couple kind of very quick architecture diagrams to give you a sense for what this might look like. Again, very early, and the good news is we have some of the world's experts in Niagara here, and some of them are actually talking early this afternoon on this very stage. And so the concept here is to eliminate that piece of hardware in the middle called the Niagara Supervisor and containerize that supervisor and push the entire installation to the cloud directly. And so you can see that it also affords us considerable flexibility in terms of what kind of tools that we can make available to you. And so, for example, you see some optional services there. Like, do you like the Niagara version, or do you want to kind of build your own, or is there another kind of third party that you could bring onto the system? So there's all kinds of flexibility that moving Niagara, the supervisory functions, from a piece of hardware in the building ultimately to the cloud natively. So this is another kind of architecture diagram with even more words on the slide, but think about it this way: all the goodness of a connected solution flow also with this offering. All the data natively within Niagara gets normalized, easy to move that to the cloud, and then to leverage the kind of large language models that we are all starting to become very comfortable with in the building control space. Providing new revenue opportunities for partners to build their own solutions, right? That's a key. This is a key enabler of that kind of outcome as well. I think the performance bottlenecks that we sometimes see today, particularly with large installations, those kind of get mitigated very easily with just a sufficient pipeline to the cloud directly. So I guess the point is here that we have a lot of good things coming your way. We're early in the stages of development of this, but it's real. This is a funded initiative by Honeywell. Tritium already has the approval for census and development resources to go attack this problem. We were talking earlier about meaningful transformations in our industry. When we went from time clocks to pneumatics, then we went from pneumatics to digital. Now we're going from digital to AI. That's happening right in front of us. So what a terrific time for all of us, honestly, to be in this industry and get to put our own little fingerprints on what the future generations might get the opportunity to work with. So lastly, I just want to thank the Cochrane Supply team. What a terrific event. Happy to be here, and I'll be here all day today and tomorrow morning. So thanks for your time this morning.
Well done, Dave. We're all happy you came back to Honeywell.
Oh, that's nice.
Train's just equipment, Dave. It's not real controls.
What do you think, Bill?
So we're super glad to have you back. I think Honeywell's lucky to have you. So you're an executive now. You came back, you're like an executive. You were like a channel guy.
Crazy things happen.
Now you're a boss guy. So tell us, as from an executive standpoint, what's going on with aerospace? There's a lot of talk about that. So could you give our audience a little idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard this question actually from a few of you about what's happening at Honeywell. Our CEO, Vimal Kapoor, immediately when he became CEO about 18 months ago, said, one of my priorities is to think about the portfolio. Do we have the right kind of portfolio? Today we're known as an MI company, a multi-industrial company. And so it's hard, therefore, to compare ourselves to more pure play companies in the organization or outside of our organization. So the decision that we've made is to create 3 different public companies from the existing Honeywell enterprise today. One will be the aerospace business. Honeywell Aerospace will become its own separate public company second half of next year. We've already started the work internally. The second public company is going to be our chemicals business, also known as Honeywell Advanced Materials. That's actually going to spin off into its own public company probably late this year or early first quarter of next year. And then the remaining business is going to be industrial automation and building automation. So we're going to become a pure play automation company. The great news for us is our performance is going to be even more important to the Honeywell enterprise and the remaining Honeywell automation company. IA is approximately the same size as BA. BA is more, building automation, is a more profitable business. So the performance that we put on the scoreboard in this new organization is going to have a much more dramatic impact on how Honeywell overall performs as a public company. So getting a lot more focused, I think, is a good thing for us. You can imagine in a multi-industrial setting like we have to compete with aerospace for investment. And we have to compete with the chemicals business for investment. After this spin, it's just between us and IA. We're just going to be a pure play automation company, really excited about it.
So who gets to keep the Honeywell name?
There's actually going to be a couple Honeywell names. There's going to be Honeywell Aerospace, there's going to be Honeywell Automation.
Okay. So you're all keeping it?
No, the chemicals business is called this Advanced Materials.
Oh, gotcha. So that one's going to change.
Yeah, they haven't earned the right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, good. Thank you, Dave. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.